So every time I go back to Chicago, a big group of people want me to put on a ghost tour for them. Naturally, it's impossible to get everybody together, so I decided to go ahead and go through what my last tour was. For those of you who can't make it, couldn't make it, and for any other strangers who might find this interesting. So I decided to put on kind of a different tour. It's very common to do the Resurrection Mary tour up and down Archer Avenue, which I love it. I've done it a million times though. Also, it's pretty common to go to Rose Hill Cemetery in Graceland and all those really common, also very, very cool places. But I decided to try to hit some places that I hadn't seen in a while myself. So our tour started on the north side, on Lincoln Avenue, at the Red Lion pub. Now for years, the Red Lion has been known to be the most haunted bar in Chicago. However, it's been closed since 2006. I've heard a ton of different rumors about how long it was going to be closed. Are they going to renovate? Are they tearing it down and building it from scratch? I was very surprised to see that the doors were still closed and nothing had been touched. Now this is as of October of 2010. Let me know in the comments below on the YouTube page if there's any new news about this very haunted location. Across Lincoln Avenue from the Red Lion pub, of course, is the Biograph Theater. The theater famously known as the place John Dillinger saw his last movie and was gunned down by FBI agents outside of. Now his ghost, a blue apparition, a blue figure of a man, has been seen emerging from the theater, running down the alley, and then slumping, falling over, and disappearing in the alleyway. And that, of course, is the exact path that John Dillinger took in his final moments, trying to flee the FBI one last time. The Biograph itself was in danger of being torn down in the mid-2000s. Fortunately, Victory Gardens purchased the theater and renovated it for live performances. What I'm curious about is when it was the Biograph movie theater still, the seat that John Dillinger sat in was immortalized with a plaque. I think it was even a different color. I'm curious, after renovations, is there still a Dillinger seat? The employees at Victory Gardens were very nice and let us come in and walk around and take a look for ourselves. Not within the theater because there was a performance going on, but just to talk about the history of the place and just to look around. I had never actually been inside it before. So after we visited the Biograph Theater, we headed up to Bohemian National Cemetery, which is kind of an overlooked but one of my favorite cemeteries. Bohemian National is known for two things. First off, the very prominent statues by Alvin Posak, the Pilgrim, frequently mistakenly called Walking Death, and the Mother, which is standing right in front of the large communal mausoleum. It's also known as the place where many, many victims of the Eastland disaster were buried. There are a couple of sections in particular that just all seem to have the same death date on them. Of course, the Eastland disaster was the worst maritime disaster in American history. The cemetery was founded in 1877, is on the National Registry of Historic Places, and actually has the remains of Czech soldiers, Czech veterans of the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, and of course World War I and II. Now something new for me here that I'd never seen before, it was the Beyond the Vines section, a Wrigley Field themed area for internments of Cubs fans. Immediately across Pulaski from Bohemian National Cemetery is Montrose Cemetery. This is another landmark to commemorate a major disaster in Chicago and indeed America's history. The largest theater fire in American history was the Iroquois Theater Fire, and this is the monument to it. Now, a lot of paranormal writers, including myself, talk about how there should be more of a plaque, more of a remembrance, other than just something at a cemetery. Well, it turns out that there is currently, just recently, a plaque at City Hall that was originally designed by Laredo Taft. Now, Laredo Taft, you may remember, he created the most photographed piece of funeral art in all of Chicago, which is Eternal Silence over at Graceland Cemetery. The rededication ceremony was held not very long ago, and I would love to see a photo of it. I'll go check it out myself when I'm back in town next. But in the meantime, if anybody has a picture of their own, I'd love to post it on my website, slimpictures.com. We went up to Evanston, to Calvary Cemetery, one of the most beautiful cemeteries around. Not known to be actively haunted, it was the site of a very common occurrence. This is the home of the Aviator. Again, people would see someone drowning off the shore of Lake Michigan and then emerge on shore, crawl up the rocky shoreline, cross Sheridan Road, 2 lanes in 2 directions, and then pace back and forth at the gates of the cemetery just after dusk. This is one of those phenomena that's seen by many people at the same time and went on for years and years. This is the ghost of someone who died during training during World War II when there were aircraft carriers in Lake Michigan and somebody didn't quite survive a landing or a takeoff. The ghost was commonly cited until one night, as the folklore goes, that the groundskeeper left the cemetery gates open in the 1970s, and the ghost has never been seen since. One of the few ghost stories with a happy ending, where somebody actually apparently found their own piece. Now, just going through today, I took people up there because it's a really nice cemetery. It is the final resting places of Charles Comiskey, for all my White Sox fans out there, and also the Cuneos, who owned the Cuneo estate up in Vernon Hills, Illinois. Finally, our last stop on this tour was Barra College in Lake Forest, Illinois. Barra started out as a women's school in 1858, one of the older institutions of higher learning for women. In 2001, it was purchased by DePaul, and unfortunately closed in 2005. The following year, it was sold to Barra Woods to be developed into condos. Now, all schools have their own folklore, but Barra was very actively haunted. There's the ghost of a nun. There were tales of the ghost of a young boy who died by falling through the elevator shaft in the building Old Main. His father was there working as a technician, didn't keep track of his son, who fell, died, and has since made his presence known in the art wing by dipping his hand in blue paint and touching students' artwork. I was really surprised when I took the group up there to see that pretty much everything was still intact. Things were fenced off, but the buildings were still standing. The developer is planning on keeping Old Main intact, which is nice to hear, but they are planning on tearing down the chapel, which is another haunted site. People would smell a very strong, overpowering floral scent, most likely associated with some of the ceremonies that have happened in that chapel. These grounds do hold a small cemetery, which I'm told is still intact today. While we were there, we couldn't get a vantage point where we could see and investigate ourselves, but hopefully that cemetery is taken care of by the new owners. So I hope you enjoyed this small tour. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We've got videos from all over the country coming up, actually. And before I sign off, I want to mention that Mary Gutflesh, who did all the artwork on Voices from the Chicago Grave, she has a YouTube channel called Mary Doodles. Check that out by clicking here. And also want to congratulate Ursula Bielski. She was just out here in California. She had an appearance, which will be upcoming, or depending on when you see this, maybe it already happened, on Travel Channel's show, Paranormal Challenge. Also congratulations to Mike Clean, who had a recent appearance on Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel, and for his new book, which is doing very well. Thanks for watching. Visit slimpictures.com to read other people's stories and questions and submit your own.
Half the staff won't go in the basement alone because they feel like they're being watched or cold spots. Actually, the bartender said she felt hands around her neck one night, so she definitely doesn't go down there alone.